The most dangerous thing in the world is not a monster you can see or a ghost you can fear. It's an idea, a concept so fundamentally wrong that it cracks the foundation of everything you know to be true. And I, Alex Rourke, a person who built a career on dismantling such ideas, was the one who invited it in. I didn't find it. It found me. It arrived on a Tuesday in a plain brown cardboard box that sat on my porch like a forgotten brick. There was no return address, just my name and address, printed in a stark, generic font that looked like it came from every library computer in the country. Inside, nestled in a bed of crumbling foam peanuts, was the object. It was a USB drive, but unlike any I had ever seen. It wasn't plastic or metal. It was a slab of pure, polished obsidian, so black it seemed to drink the light from my studio apartment. It felt cold, unnaturally so, as if it had been pulled from a deep freezer moments before delivery. There was no branding, no capacity listed, just that profound, absolute blackness. My first instinct, my professional instinct, was skepticism. This was a prank. A listener from the podcast probably pissed off that I'd debunked their favorite skinwalker story, sending me some edgy art project. I almost threw it away. But curiosity, that ancient and fatal flaw, got the better of me. What if it was something more? What if it was evidence? I was always hunting for the next big story, the case that would finally prove or disprove something truly monumental. So I plugged it into a standalone, air-gapped laptop I use for analyzing questionable files. A safety precaution that, in hindsight, felt as useful as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. The drive contained a single audio file labeled only sequence or 7.b-wave. I highlighted it, my cursor hovering over the play button. The room was silent, save for the low hum of my computer's fan. I remember feeling a prickle of something, not fear, anticipation, the thrill of the hunt. I clicked play. The sound that came from the speakers was not what I expected. It wasn't a ghostly whisper or a demonic growl. It was a sequence of tone, a complex, interwoven pattern of high and low frequencies that seemed to slide over and under each other. It was mathematical, almost musical, but in a way that felt completely alien. There was no melody a human mind could latch onto, no rhythm that felt natural. It was a loop, maybe 30 seconds long, that repeated with machine-like precision. I listened for 5 full minutes, my brow furrowed. It was bizarre, sure, but a hoax? A noise collage? I was about to eject the drive, my disappointment a sour taste in my mouth, when the first thing happened. The desk lamp on my right flickered. Not a normal power surge flicker. It dimmed and brightened in perfect exact time with the rising pitch of one of the tones in the sequence. A precise, rhythmic pulse of light. I stared at it, my brain trying to rationalize. A coincidence. A weird fluctuation in the building's power grid that just happened to sync up. It had to be. I stopped the audio. The lamp's light returned to its steady, warm glow. I played the tone again. And again, the lamp dimmed and brightened, a perfect visual metronome to the unnatural audio. My heart began to beat a little faster. This was unusual. I decided to take a walk, to clear my head. The audio was still looping in my mind, that strange atonal sequence playing on a mental repeat. The evening air was cool, the suburban street quiet. I passed under a streetlight, and as I did, it winked out. Then the next one down the line did the same. And the next, a perfect wave of darkness followed my steps, each light extinguishing and then flickering back on a moment after I passed. All of it moving in time with the ghost of the sequence echoing in my skull. A cold dread, sharp and entirely new, began to coil in my stomach. This was beyond coincidence. This was pattern. This was response. I hurried to the 24-hour grocery store a few blocks away, needing the comfort of fluorescence and human noise. The automatic doors hissed open. The store was mostly empty. An old man was picking through the apples in the produce section. A young couple was arguing softly by the cereal boxes. A store clerk was mopping the floor near the registers, his headphones on. I walked down the aisle, my footsteps echoing the rhythm of the tones in my head. I stopped in front of a wall of soup cans, trying to steady my breathing, to convince myself I was just tired, stressed, imagining things. That's when I heard it. The old man coughed. The clerk sniffled. The woman and the couple sighed, all at the exact same time. A tiny, meaningless synchrony. I froze. Then it happened again. A shuffle of feet, a rustle of clothing. 3 unrelated people, performing 3 unrelated micro-actions in perfect, unnatural unison. I turned slowly, my blood running cold. They weren't looking at each other. They weren't aware of it. It was as if their strings were being pulled by the same invisible puppeteer, their movements briefly locked into the same frame of a grander film. I practically ran out of the store, the feeling of being in a staged reality, a set piece washing over me in a sickening wave. Back in my apartment, I locked the door and leaned against it, my heart hammering against my ribs. The Obsidian drive sat on my desk, inert, innocent. It had done this. That sound. It was a key that was unlocking something in the world, or worse, unlocking something in me. I avoided my reflection in the dark screen of my monitor. I was too afraid of what I might see, or not see. The next 24 hours were a masterclass in mounting psychological terror. The world began to glitch around me, and each glitch was tied to that damn sequence now permanently etched into my neural pathways. The second event happened when I made coffee the next morning. My hand was shaking as I poured the boiling water. A single drop splashed onto the counter. I watched it, mesmerized by its simple, mundane existence. And then it happened. The droplet, obeying the laws of physics, should have begun to slowly spread, to wet the laminate surface. Instead, it quivered. And then it stuttered. It snapped back into a perfect sphere, then flattened, then became a sphere again, like a video on a buffering loop. For a full 3 seconds, the droplet of water flickered between 2 possible states of being, unable to decide which one to commit to. Then it settled, becoming just a drop of water again. I had to grip the counter to stay upright. I was seeing the code. The rendering was lagging. The third event was the silence. I live in a noisy apartment building. I hear my upstairs neighbor walking around, the pipes groaning, the distant hum of traffic. That afternoon, it all stopped. Not gradually, but all at once. As if someone had hit a mute button on the entire world. The silence was absolute, deeper than any silence I had ever experienced. It was a void. In that void, I could hear it, a faint digital hum, a carrier tone underlying everything, the hidden foundation of the simulation. And then a sound that made my blood freeze. A single pure tone, identical to the highest note in the sequence from the drive, rang out clear and sharp from the center of the room. It had no source. It was just a system sound, a notification from reality itself. The silence broke immediately after, the world's audio tracks slamming back into place with the suddenness of a thunderclap. I screamed. I couldn't help it. The final event, the one that broke me completely, was my reflection. I couldn't avoid it forever. I finally looked in the bathroom mirror, my face pale and drawn with panic. My reflection looked back. I raised a hand. It raised its hand. I blinked. It blinked. And then I shook my head, a slow, disbelieving movement. My reflection in the mirror was a fraction of a second behind. A barely perceptible lag, like a bad internet connection. I froze. My reflection kept moving for a millisecond, then froze too, its expression catching up to mine. It wasn't a malevolent smile or a demonic face. It was worse. It was imperfect. It was a flawed copy, a rendering error. I was looking at a digital echo of myself, and it was struggling to keep up with the input. I stumbled back out of the bathroom, a sob catching in my throat. My own mind, my own eyes could no longer be trusted. That's when the real work began. The reason the drive was sent to me. I am a researcher, an analyst. My terror had a purpose now to understand. I became obsessed. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I lived in that small room with that obsidian shard, analyzing the audio file with every piece of software I had. I ran it through spectral analyzers, frequency decomposers, cryptographic decoders. The waveform was impossibly complex, a fractal pattern that seemed to contain infinite depth. It wasn't a message. It was a structure. The breakthrough came when I stopped treating it as sound and started treating it as data. I converted the audio file into a raw data stream. The resulting string of code was immense, a sprawling, chaotic mess of ones and zeros. But within that chaos, I began to see patterns, repeating strings, command lines. It was a programming language, but one infinitely more advanced than anything ever written on Earth. And then I found it, a header, a tag buried deep within the data. It was a label for the file itself. Reality firmware update, v7.3b, patch notes. My blood went from cold to frozen solid. Patch notes? It was a system update. The tones weren't a warning or a curse. They were an installation file, a mandatory update for the human consciousness designed to allow the user to perceive the underlying operating system of the universe. My lifelong quest to debunk the supernatural, to find the rational, logical explanation for every mystery, it wasn't a noble pursuit of truth. It was a program directive, a function of my character. I was an NPC designed to reinforce the stability of the simulation by explaining away its glitches. The audio file was sent to me because I was the perfect candidate to receive it. A stress test for the new patch. I finally understood the twist, the horrific, gut-wrenching punchline. I had spent my entire life arguing that we were alone in a meaningless material universe. And I was right. But I was right in the worst way possible. The material universe is meaningless because it's not real. We are alone because the only other entities are the users, the ones outside the system, and they don't care about the characters in the game. The revelation was not a visual one. It was a cognitive shift, a lens sliding over my perception. I looked around my apartment and I didn't see walls and furniture. I saw assets, polygons in textures with a limited draw distance. The air hummed with the processing power required to keep it all coherent. The people I saw on the street through my window weren't people. They were sophisticated AI scripts running on loops, their paths predetermined, their interactions a complex ballet of pre-written code. And the sky, I looked up at the night sky. The stars weren't suns, they were dead pixels. Glitches in the cosmic background render. And behind them, instead of infinite blackness, I could see it. The code, endless streaming lines of luminous green symbols, a waterfall of fundamental logic that defined every law of physics, every particle, every thought in my head. My consciousness was just a subroutine running on a server in a dimension I could never comprehend. I am Alex Rourke. I host a podcast called Rational Fears, where I debunk the paranormal. I finally found the truth I was always looking for, and it has broken me completely. The audio file wasn't a message. It was an invitation to look behind the curtain. And now I can't look away. I see the strings on everything. I hear the fan whirring in the server room of existence. I am aware of the simulation, and in its eyes, that awareness is a virus, a flaw. I am a corrupted file, and I know with a certainty that is the only real thing left in my world, that the system will now begin its standard protocol for dealing with corrupted files. It's getting dark outside, not the natural dark of night. This dark is different. It's a rendering error. The world is losing detail at the edges. The sounds are becoming compressed, low quality. I think my chunk of the server is being prepared for a memory wipe. Or maybe just deletion. Don't look for me. You won't find me. I was never really here to begin with. And if you ever receive a small black USB drive with no return address, don't plug it in. It's not a curse. It's just an update. And your reality will never be the same again. I finally have proof for my podcast. Absolute, irrefutable proof that it's all a lie. But I'll never be able to record it. The microphone in front of me is just a collection of pixels. And the words I'm speaking, they're just sounds programmed to come out of my mouth. I can see the command line now. Terminate sentience, Alex Rourke. I wonder what comes after the screen fades to black.